Om Namo Narayana, Om Namo Shivaya, Shiva Om, Shivaham, Om. Welcome to another Satsang with your host, Chuck the Yogi from the Yogi Cave, and let us continue moving out of the Yangtze River and up into the Wutang Mountains. Where was I? Nourishing the Mercury child enables him to fulfill his nature, and waiting for the lead child, flowers appear. So the Mercury child is an analogy for the initial fire, the chi, or as they say in Tibet, tumo, or as they say in India, tapasya, which brings forth our temperament, jing, or nature. And the lead child is an analogy of the winter, the initial winter, the jing, which is, there's three phases, right? You got jing, which is the substance, the body substance, whether it's semen, what have you, whatever body substance is the basis. You could say like the black earth, the alchemical black earth, and then you have chi, which is energy. So jing is converted to chi, and chi is converted to shen. So chi would be the mid-level, and shen the upper level. Okay. Anyway, so the idea is that there's this process, this alchemical process going on. Let's see where else. I can't get into all these commentaries because he gets into a ridiculous amount of detail. So I'm not going to do that to you. Please do read the book if you're interested. Guarding against erroneous actions, he mobilizes the true fire within himself by practicing the 7 reversions, and unperturbed cultivates 9 restorations. So, let's see. I'm not going to get too much into the specifics as far as like reversions and restorations and all the rest of it, but just be mindful of the fact that reversions or restorations has to do with the circulation of chi, and how chi absorbs jing and is converted into sheng. So I mean, this is basically what we're talking about here. We're talking about an alchemical process. How regrettable it is that the tiger and dragon do battle in the hall of war while contemplating within tranquility. So expressions of yin, the tiger, and yang, the dragon, battling for dominance. So you're talking about the lunar and the solar channels, right? The Ilan Pingala. And how is it that these energy currents are out of balance? And it behooves the practitioner, whether a yogi or whether a Taoist master, to be able to bring them into harmony with each other. So there's different techniques to be able to do that. Grasp hold of obscurity and turn over to invert the yin and yang. So inverting the yin and yang, again, is another way of mixing mercury with sulfur. This is what we're talking about. This is the alchemical process of bringing the two into one. And the two into one is into the central channel where it becomes one. So I'm not going to get into details of how to go about that. I've given some outlines of it, but that's where a master or a guru or somebody of that nature, somebody knowledgeable, is nice to have. As a matter of fact, I would say to some extent very important or even required, but everybody's in a different situation, right? All right, let me move along and grasp hold of the obscurity. There's this image that comes to mind. That's a beautiful one right there. Let's see, where's the other one here? He goes into very deep details, so I have to make sure that I'm taking out of the text itself, not the commentary. Others say my own sweat has blinded me because I reject actual sleep. Now, mind you, this is a sleeping mortal. But I'm not sleeping, just being perfectly still. So the idea is to get to a point where, whether sleeping or awake, you're in that constant communion with the Tao, with the Way, with the One, however you want to call it. And where sleep and the different states of sleep, waking, and super consciousness are all blended into one. And obviously this Taoist master achieved that. And yogis as well, they get to a point where they need next to no sleep, or in his case, he's just not so much sleeping, because again, somebody came up to me in India, and he was like, with his hand gestures, he was like, why aren't you sitting up? You're supposed to be a yogi. And I was like, I'm doing manasapuya. Basically, I'm complete within myself, which is what the Taoist immortal says. So it doesn't matter whether you're sleeping or whether you're lying down or whether you're sitting up. At least when you get to that point, you're always in that constant communion with the Tao. Anyway, you must practice and study. Cultivate until all is complete, so the true blends with the Chan. This is true embryo. So Chan is Zen, right? So obviously they knew about Zen at this point. And there's a lot of cross currents between Taoism and Zen, or Taoism and Buddhism. That's par for the course. And practice and study, obviously we're talking about sadhana, right? That's pretty much what they're talking about there. The sleeping dragon once rose up and ascended into heaven. This is the Jellyfish Method. Whose method is this? So the sleeping dragon is Zhangguo Lao. So again, another Taoist immortal, one of the 8 immortals. Yeah, I did say 7 immortals back in the day. I get my numbers mixed up. 8 immortals. And legend, he's a legend, he's unknown. But the idea is that the sleeping dragon rose up and ascended into heaven. He's talking about the flow of current from below to above and from Jing to Shen. So this is, again, an alchemical process. And here's the dragon. Wonderful depiction of the dragon. Dwelling in the mountains, I just naturally use my bent arm as a pillow. There is such joy being in the midst of having the acquaintance of no one. So the acquaintance of no one just means that this Taoist immortal has achieved samarasa. In other words, in the ups and downs of life, there is this sense of indifference or detachment from such things. And obviously he's talking about the Wutang Mountains, the mountains where the Taoist masters went to practice. And heaven bequeathed these methods through transmitting the southern map. The southern map is but one pulse. But who is able to follow this? The dirty Taoist Sanfeng. So, the southern map is a reference to the river map and low script from the Book of Changes, the I Ching. So that's what he's talking about. And Chan Sangfang was known as Dirty Chang because he went ahead and dressed as a beggar because he didn't want to be bothered by emperors and potentates that wanted a piece of his knowledge. So he went into hiding, which many masters do. They can be hiding in plain sight, and you'll never know, right? Because they don't want to be bothered. They want to focus on what's essential. So this is it. I mean, that's the beauty of Taoist. It's very condensed. The Chinese language is very apt to condense. It's almost like it's naturally in a sutra form. So it's very easy for Taoist immortals to take these characters and infuse all sorts of levels of meaning to them. So that's the beauty of the Chinese culture and the Chinese language. Anyway, I'm leaving it there. We're going to be leaving our brief stint with the Wutang Mountains, and we're going to be heading back into the Gangetic Plains and revisit. And then we'll see what happens at that point. Om Namo Narayana. Om Namah Shivaya. Shiva Om. Shiva Om. Jai Ma. Jai Mahakan. Sai Jang.